Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legends of Tomorrow. Another great episode. A lot of stuff went down in this episode we got to break down. Obviously, some anachronisms pop up, and the team has to be split in two, dealing with two. One is we have Grodd going after Barry. It's like, well, Barry's always in trouble. It's like, not that Barry. It's like, Barack Obama. It's like, what? I love that. Which is also interesting, too, because it's like, I never got to really see much of Grodd with, like, Mollis' whole team. Like, the only thing we saw him pop up later on for, like, the only thing we've seen him do as part of this team is kill the leader of the Time Bureau. Like, that dude, like Ava's original boss, is like, that's the only thing we saw him do prior to this, and he was immediately shut down. It's interesting too, because I brought it up before. I was like wondering, like, would Mick even bother fixing his gun? It's like, no, apparently he fixed it. I figured, well, you had the fire totem, but it's like, yeah, you most likely won't use that forever. Like, after this season, they'll probably go to separate places scattered across the earth to find their next chosen to kind of be their god, that type of thing. Or maybe when it's all said and done, all the other totems get, well, because they never get destroyed, but maybe it's just like maybe it's kind of like a Dragon Ball Z thing where it's like they scatter to the winds. It's kind of what I was kind of alluding to earlier, but nevertheless. But it seems like he's got that in the totem for now. But it's kind of interesting seeing he got his gun back. But Grodd got shrunk down, and Barack Obama was saved and everything. Which I love that later on when it comes down to it, you have Dark, like Damien, coming to the Legends because he needs their help, because he wants to save Nora, especially because we got to see from shadows what it looked like when Mollis came from Nora's body. It was like, whoa. And basically unlikely enemies have to join forces to stop a common threat. But obviously Sarah has her reservations. And Sarah kind of brings up a good point in this episode. She literally let Dark live last season. She had to watch him walk away, mainly because she knew that, no, okay, I'm letting him live. Yes, it still means my sister dies, but I do know ultimately there is some justice because she knows that Oliver puts him down later on in the timeline. So there's that. But it's like, I can't let it happen again. Because for one, let's not forget, this isn't 80s Dark. This is the Dark that Oliver killed. So this is the Dark that killed her, sister, Laurel. So it has that much more of an impact. Which was something, I think something else I kind of talked about too, is like, she's not bumped into or to Laurel at all. Like, she's not dealing with that old situation like her dad is, so. But nevertheless, it leaves her heavily conflicted. Obviously, you have Ava telling her to kind of prioritize things, but it's like, really? You got the nerve to tell me that, and you're avoiding having the whole conversation with Rip. Rip is literally here, and you were not having the whole conversation about the whole clone you, which she didn't want to deal with it. Because for her, and it's something you can obviously tell, like, Sarah's right. It's like she was just scared because it's like, once you know the truth of something like that, it's just like, you already know a good chunk of the truth. You don't want to know all of the truth because it's too heartbreaking, And so, really quick, I'll talk about that. She does finally confront Rip, and Rip admits she's not even the first Ava. I was like, okay, so he thought there was something special about her. It's like, no, there's actually been 11 Avas before her. I was like, ooh, that sucks. Which can only mean, he never said, well, I assume that is referencing them being dead. Who's to say he didn't just return them because they were defective? I don't know, but he kept saying like, oh, Ava was unique. She was crucial, which she kept being like, oh, just stop. You're just trying to make excuses for what you've done. I kind of interpret that as like, I still kind of brought that up too. Like, I think she is important in some shape or form, like, to this battle. Like, cause it's like, why? Cause he's like, it wasn't just it's partly because the Time Bureau is like, oh, finding good, efficient members like you, especially members that can be replaced, which once again, like, while he was saying that, I was like, really, Rip? That's the most dickish thing you could say. You're literally making these clones come out and have these personalities. If they knew from the very beginning, that's one thing, but for you to make them into a person and to find out, there's like, that's enough to shatter your world even more. It's already hard enough finding out you're a clone. Finding out you weren't even the first. It's like, I wasn't your first pick, I wasn't your second pick. I was actually your 12th pick. And it's like, that's so heartbreaking to know there was like 11 people before you. And who's to say Rip didn't do the same thing for them? Implant either the same memories he put in you or different memories entirely. I don't know. it'd be heart-wrenching either way, because one way is just kind of like, oh, like if it's the same memories, it's like, oh, you really don't care, all you're doing is recycling the same person over and over again, like there's no real me if these memories have been passed down from one person to person. It's a little heartbreaking if it's also heartbreaking if it's like, oh, they all had separate personalities and memories, because that made them each their own individual Ava and just a different person entirely, which would kind of lean more towards making this Ava unique too, because she's the only Ava. Like, you know, maybe the other ones went by a different name. Maybe they weren't all just Avas, you know? Which begs the question, like, over the course of all this, like, in that 5 years when he was creating it, like, you know, the Time Bureau, when they finally, like, show up again, and, like, at the beginning of, this season, does that mean, like, the Time Bureau got to know? It kind of leans to the whole possibility that was most likely the same memories amongst them. But it's like, what makes this Ava so special? Like I said, is that him trying to ease his consciousness? I feel like there's more to it, because I brought that up before. Like, I feel like maybe she has something to do with the totems, potentially. Maybe that's what the ultimate thing's going to be about with her, but I don't know. We'll kind of still have to wait and see on that regard. But obviously there's the whole Barry situation, with Barry as in Barack Obama situation. And I love that Sarah goes to him for advice about everything. He's like, yeah, that's a complicated situation. But he's like, feeling the way you do about having to help out Dark, it's not a bad thing. It's only human that you would want to feel the way you did. And just like, and he's calm, his mind's blown, and then she erases his mind for a second time, which is so interesting. It's kind of funny because it's just kind of like, because Sarah makes a reference, she's like, I miss you. I was literally watching something recently where someone was like, what was I watching? I was watching Hot Ones, and like Taraji P. Henson was kind of talking about like, please come back. And it's just kind of interesting that this happened on the same day. I just thought that was kind of funny. But nevertheless, so she decides to work with Dark, and I love that their plan is basically to have Ray shrink down in her ear and play a voice similar to Mollis to make her think the commands are coming from Mollis, and you have Dark be like, really? Is that a joke plan, or is this for real? It's like, that's kind of the Legends, but I feel like this has to be their craziest plan yet for something like that. Let's not even forget the fact that Dark even helped them. It's like, oh yeah, this symbol, yeah, do you want to capture me with? Yeah, it's upside down. Don't worry, I got it for you. Oh. And then Ray's like, come on, try and choke me. Are you serious? He's like, yeah. He's like, you can't do it, can you? He's like, yeah. Oh, there's even that thing of like, okay, let me get inside of Nora. And then Dark looks at him. He's like, once again, not like that. Which, once again, those jokes are even weirder and funnier just because it's like, well, we do know that that's Brandon, like Courtney Ford, who plays Nora, is Brandon Routh's wife. So it just makes those scenes even more interesting in that regard. But what I didn't know, because I kept seeing the title of this episode, guest starring John Noble, I was like, oh, they're messy. I was like, oh, that's messed up, because I kept seeing that everywhere. I thought like, oh, that's just a typo or someone messed up. It's like, no, after watching the episode, it's like, it makes sense. That's literally the title of this episode. Because while Rory was watching like Lord of the Rings, they got inspired because like, oh my god, this dude, he sounds just like Mollis. And it's like, what's his name? Oh, John Noble. So Ray goes back in time and runs lines with him. Which, interestingly enough, I think this is the first time I've ever heard John Noble's Australian accent, because I've always heard him with his American accent. So it was just kind of interesting hearing him talking, even saying mate. I don't know, maybe he was playing it up a little bit more, but I'm sure, maybe, I don't know. It was just interesting because I don't think I've ever heard him just like talking outside of like a TV show. So that was just kind of interesting to me. And having him run the lines and stuff like that, it was like, that's so good. And when you were playing the lines in Nora's head, and Dark's like, oh, well, Mollis has contacted you. Oh, wow, he's got a plan for me, but oh, I don't know if we can do that. We're so outmatched. It's like, I love when you play stupid. You're so good at it. So the plan kind of unveils. All this is happening while the other side of the team is dealing with the whole Amaya situation. Amaya's trying to go back in time and save her village, which I'll go ahead and admit. I'll go ahead right off the bat and say, I thought things were going to change a little bit differently, because like the whole aspect of like, oh yeah, there's like these people, not marauders, but what are they? Mercenaries or whatever that attacked the village. Immediately I was like, is it going to turn out to be the Time Bureau attack? I thought the Legends were going to have to defend Zimbabwe from the Time Bureau, because they're like, we have to make sure time stays intact, because the ultimate plan is like, yeah, we summon and release Mollis and then we can actually kill him. So, which is kind of a crazy plan, but it's like, I mean, there's probably that's probably the easiest way to kind of kill him. Which is very interesting. I feel like most people kind of steer away from a plan like that, but hey, But what's kind of interesting, kind of going along the same, going back, kind of breaking it down. You had Wally still doing the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, you don't want to do that because it's Flashpoint. Flashpoint happened. Barry kind of suffered the ramifications of like changing the timeline, but it's like Nate's back into Maya's play. And it's just like, you can understand both sides of it because it's like for Nate, it's like the woman he loves is trying to save her family. How can I fault her for that? Like given a chance, any one of us would. I mean, even Zari tried to find as many loopholes as she could. She ran all these different simulations, but the domino effects were too great because of the fact of the matter is if Essie does save the day, and it does eventually get, like, what does that mean for, like, obviously it changes Kuwasa and Mari's fate, but once again, it's that situation of like, well, Mari is a vigilante, she saves a lot of people's lives, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, if her mom is still alive and fine, like, that means she probably never leaves Zimbabwe, she probably stays back home to be the guardian, the protector of the village, like many before her have, so that means she doesn't go to Detroit to be the superhero that she is, kind of doing a lot of the good that she's done. So that's always a kind of equation. I'm sure that's like one of the things that kind of brought up in Zari's calculation. So, but what was really fascinating is when when Nate met with older Maya. I thought she was going to say something. The fact is, she kept choking. She's like, I don't know you. I'm like, oh, her memory's wiped. And it's like, oh, I was like, oh, because immediately my brain was like, oh, they must have wiped her memories because it's like, well, this way we can make sure that the timeline continues on the way it is, no matter what happens, like whatever, like her future holds for her. It's like, we got to let the time. So I figured like immediately when she gets back, but it also puts a sad twist to things because for Nate, he's like, the fact is that she's back here sadly means that we don't get to grow old again. I'm like, oh, that's so heartbreaking, dude. But then we find out, but then Nate kind of puts it to a different perspective when he talks to Maya. It's like, obviously she had her memories wiped of everything about the legends, about him, all their adventures. And it's like, I know the reason why that would be is, and then Maya's like, because it would split her between her duties. Because if she had her memories of Nate, she'd be so split between her love for him and her duties of protecting the village that she wouldn't be the true protector that she needed to be. So she had to let him and the legends go. So most likely she wiped her own memories when it's all said and done. Which once again, I kept saying it like all things. I was like, it has to be like Nate has to be like her daughter Essie's dad and Kuwasa and Mari's grandfather, but it's like maybe not the case. I don't know what the things kind of transpiring the way they are. I mean, to be fair, we didn't see anyone else with her, so maybe it's like she got pregnant beforehand, and then when she wiped her memory, she's just like, oh, maybe some excuses were made about like where the pregnancy happened, or maybe that in her mind, maybe it was something special. It's just kind of like, oh, like Essie was a miracle baby, something like that. I don't know. Because I do wonder about that. Because I mean, not less that person had died like before, before 1992 or something like that. So that's always a possibility as well. But I don't know. Like I said, my money's still always been on Nate being like Mari and Kuwasa's grandfather, even though like Kuwasa never believed, was like, oh my grandmother needs to go back and be with my grandfather. So like, ultimately we'll kind of have to wait and see on that. But that's where my money's still on. But I kind of losing faith in that thought now as time has kind of passed on more and more, especially kind of like so close to the end, right here at the end of the season too. It's just kind of funny to me. But nevertheless, because I thought it was kind of interesting because like when Essie was she's run away from her duties with the totem, I'm like, what? I was like, why is that? I was like, oh man, I was like, Amaya must have interfered or something like that. It's like, no, the reason why that happened, because it's like, no, apparently Essie ran away from him because she felt like I couldn't live up to it. It's like, there's this legend, like her mom is like this beast of a legend, a great protector, the great Amaya. And it's like, how can I ever live up to those expectations? She had doubts. And she's like, my mother was so never had doubts. It's like, no, like every totem bearer before you had doubts, even your mom. So, believe in yourself and trust me, she will believe in you too, so it was just Essie needed kind of that talk. Cause I was wondering because I thought it was going to be like a different route of like Essie was just kind of like, no, this life isn't for me just because I don't want this life. Cause it's like, this is her great destiny. It's always been her destiny. I thought, which kind of obviously is a little scary because it's like, what if I don't live up to like all this hype, this potential? It's like, I'm supposed to be this great protector, but what if I'm not good enough? It's kind of a concern of hers, I'm sure. So, but she does get the totem, and she does defend Zimbabwe. Sadly, Dark decides to release Grodd because he's caught in that position of like, no, he saw Nora. So I don't know whether that was the death totem or more, it was most likely part of Mollis. Like, well, no, why would that be the case though? That had to be really like the real Nora because it's like, why would Mollis like want you to keep the timeline the way it is, because that would just make it harder for him to get away. Like, he'd want you to kind of break the timeline. So that had to be the real Nora kind of speaking to him. Maybe his connection plus the fact is the death totem kind of allowed him to do it. It's actually interesting too, because the death totem didn't like completely transform him, because it's actually something him and Sarah actually can't talk about, because for him, it's like, the fact is like, oh, you think, yeah, you don't deserve, happiness and love and stuff like that because you touched the death totem and you almost killed your team and stuff like that, but you didn't, which is like, that shows you like how strong you are. It's like, I'm even here pouring my heart and soul to one of my mortal enemies, and you're here talking to me about it. Like, you're not judging, it's like, you're seeing me so brokenhearted because I was unable to save Nora, and it should, like, you should be happy about it because you've thought about seeing me in misery and in pain for so much. But in her case, it's like, yeah, he's a dick, but she's not going to, like, dig the knife even deeper in that particular case. And it's just, which is kind of funny considering the fact that she stabbed him in the back. So that was kind of an interesting choice of words. And he's like, you literally stabbed me in the back. It's like, well, I didn't stab you in the heart. So that says a lot, which is saying a lot, because she could have easily have done that. Like, and because she did promise, like, when it's all said and done, I'm going to need to put you down. But, it's kind of interesting because I guess because he accepts the darkness a lot more in him, Sarah's always fought the darkness in her. So that's why it doesn't control dark the way it did. But maybe that speaks volumes to the fact is it did what it did to Sarah, because the totems didn't really activate the way they were supposed to for everyone. So I'm thinking, at least in Dark's case, maybe it didn't fully activate. So, he isn't the right person to wield it. It has to be Sarah. Because of that struggle in her, I guess that makes her the right choice for it, But even Dark kind of said something that's kind of nice, as the fact is that they're able to fight away the darkness because of the people in their lives, because of love. And if you don't have love, you can't keep that darkness away, and you'll just kind of be stuck in it alone, So, which Sarah does try to, like, tells Ava, it's like, I'm going to tell you something that means something to both of us. She says, and kisses her and says, like, I love you. But for Ava, it's like, I'm not anybody. How could you love me? Like, there's nobody to love. I'm a nobody, And it's like I said, that whole situation is so sad. And I'm curious to see, like, where that all goes, like, going forward. So even with his betrayal, like, sadly, things still play out the way they need to play out with, time changing, which we still don't know what those effects are. It does take a little while for time to solidify. So we don't know what the aftermath of the whole situation with Amaya and, like, the totems and everything, what that means for her family, like, what that means going down. Maybe things will still play out the way they were supposed to anyway. If it's not this, maybe something else will kind of push. I don't know. We'll ultimately have to wait and see, but we do finally get a good look at Mollis. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting, like, oh yeah, like, he's some powerful, like, human with magic powers and stuff like that, which he has magic and stuff like that, but it's like, he's super demonically looking. He's legitimately a demon, got horns and wings and everything, which we saw from the shadows, but it's like, I wasn't expecting an outright monster. I was thinking you're just going to be, like, a dude. I mean, this is the first time they've ever fought, like, a monster antagonist. Like, they fought, monsters and stuff like that. I mean, I guess Grodd could make that. He more falls on the line of animal, but they fought dinosaurs and stuff before. But it's like, I don't know, this is the first time fighting, like, a legit monster, which is kind of interesting. Well, no, to be fair, there's a whole things in season 1, the thing, like, Jax got turned into, like, those people in, like, the 50s were getting turned into? So it's not, like, their first run-in with monsters. It was just, I wasn't expecting, I was thinking it was going to be a dude. And once again, just the whole meta aspect of, like, John Noble being the voice of Mollis and actually popping up in the show as John Noble. It's like, it's fourth wall breaking. It's too meta, and I love it. It's like the show does so much ridiculous stuff, and I love it. We have Nate using the Earth Totem to kind of knock Grodd back. So that's it, which doesn't mean Grodd's completely taken care of. So that's an issue they're going to have to deal with later on. But it's like, hey, it worked. No rain, no water totem for Ray, which is kind of interesting. I'm assuming it will activate for him, but it's going to be interesting because it's like, well, that was originally Kuasa's, so. But I guess it's like, I don't know, just kind of interesting because Nora was able to tap into, like, the spirit totem, and now the connection between her and Ray, and not even just obviously real world wise, like I've talked about before, but just even character wise in the show and stuff like that. I don't know, it's just kind of interesting. So, I am very interested to see what goes down because next week's episode will in fact be the season finale, and I'm so interested to see how this all plays out. Will things go down the way they want them to? Like I said, like the totems aren't working. Like Ray's isn't really activating. They got the death totem back, but like I said, it's going to be up to Sarah to wield it. Maybe even Ava. Like what's going to happen with the Time Bureau? Will they ultimately help? Will Ava not? I mean, it's kind of too late now anyway. Like I guess Ava wasn't going to stop them, but she wasn't going to help them. But now, maybe, we'll see her kind of change her tune next episode, and also finding out more about what makes her so special about all of this. I hope it isn't something messed up like Ava being a clone. The reason why he needs her is for her to be the host that they seal Mollis in, because that way it's not a real person that needs to be sacrificed. And at least in this case, it's like, oh, you're someone that can be replaced type of thing. I hope it's nothing like that. It's just, like I said, Rip kind of being like, oh, you're essential. But also, once again, I can't help but note this. Like, it's like I just feel like the only season Rip wasn't a total dick was season 2. Because he's been one quite a bit season 3 trying to make up for it. Season 1, kind of a dick. But it's like, I feel like season 2 was the only season he wasn't one. But ultimately, we'll kind of have to wait and see how it all plays out on all fronts. And I'm super excited to see that. Also curious to see, like, where the Dark stand. Will there be any way of saving Nora? What does this mean for Damien Dark? Will Sarah just let him go, or will she put him back down to being dead again, Because even Dark kind of apologized, because he's like, the reason why Nora became the way she is because he was so obsessed with world domination that led to him dying, and he left her alone. Not only with his name, but also his ambition to kind of live. Like, that's why when she grew up and kind of was with Mollis, like, she was kind of trying to live out her father's ambitions. Like, my dad wants to destroy the world. He wants to destroy the world, so I'm just going to try my best to do it. So she kind of wouldn't fall in her father's footsteps. So, especially sadly, because it's like she grew up most of her life without him. So, not a lot. It's not an easy thing, for a kid to go through. So, like I said, I do appreciate that kind of being a thing we got to see this season. Along with, like I said, last season we got to see a little more of the jokey side to Damien Dark. We also got to see a bit part this season, but also we got to see the more human side of him, which we haven't really seen that before. So I thought that's kind of a nice touch that they've done, an element they've added to this season. So, like I said, I'm rambling on. Like, I need to finish this up. And this, like I said, cannot wait to see what the season finale has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next one we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good